objective of this lecture is to learn how to live the instant, to live the moment here and now, because we are totally distracted by our different psychological defects. We can be here in this moment, in this present, but our mind, our emotions can be in the past while we are feeling melancholy, feeling nostalgic about something that has already passed, or we are feeling anxious, we are feeling stressed out because of something that we think we must do in the future. So the objective is to know in which place of our psychological country are we located, and to stop believing that everything's fine, that we are good, that we are being conscious about our behavior, because what happens is that we lose the power of the self-observation, and we immediately go to that psychological place. We are dragged by our companions that are the different egos that we carry inside ourselves. In different moments, we can be here, but we see a beautiful face, a prototype of beauty, and we are dragged to the psychological country of lust, of feeling lascivious, feeling that sexual tension, and we are immediately desiring that person, trying to flirt with that person. So our different companions that are the egos of lust, of adultery, of flirting, of feeling sexual desire for someone that we don't even know. So that's what's happening inside ourselves, as well as all the defects that we carry within: greed, anger, vanity, all of them. They take us to the psychological country that we have inside of us. And the objective also is to change the magnetic center of gravity in order to keep uh, uh, nurturing that part of us that is our conscience, that is the 3% of justice, wisdom, and love. So we have to make it grow in order to achieve the sacred individuality that is the 100% of awakened conscience. So let's describe what is the psychological country in order for us to understand better what do we mean by the psychological country. Uh, well, exists our interior world. Though we think that the only thing that's real is the physical world, our three-dimensional physical body, because we can perceive it with our five senses. But it takes a lot of effort for us to perceive that inner world that we carry within. That is the place in which we live the most, in our emotions, our mind, our feelings, our thoughts, and that the external world is just a consequence because we attract by the law of correspondence with what we have inside. So just as the external country in which we live exists, in our inner world we find our psychological country. So the external world, here we can find different people, different places. We can find all that we can perceive with our five senses. And in our psychological country, we have the 97% of bottled up conscience that is trapped in our different psychological defects, or what we can call the force of our ego, that force of injustice, hate, and well, what is not truth, what is not fair. We are carried by those negative forces that are the wisdom of evil all the time because they feed on our energy. Our mental energy is being wasted by all the egos that we carry that are constantly worrying, feeling anxious, feeling stressed out, the egos of just partying, having fun, being drunk, being consuming substances to well just lose our conscience, like drugs, like alcohol, the egos of entertainment, all those egos that we carry within. the egos of lust, the egos of celibacy, which are the egos that think that sex is something that is disgusting, that is not appropriate, that it's unacceptable, the egos that make fun of others, mockery of, well, just having fun at the expenses of someone else, the egos of fighting, of yelling and screaming, insulting others, the impatience, the violence. We have all those psychological defects in our inner world. And the external world is just the reflection of what we carry within. That's why we always encounter people that have our same psychological defects because of the law of the mirror. For instance, if we carry violence, if we carry anger inside ourselves, we are going to have a lot of tension with people around us, uh, damaged relationships because of the egos of, well, shouting, screaming, yelling, feeling negative emotions, that you are disliking, that you're feeling antipathy towards someone and you don't know why, but you just don't have a good relationship with that person, and you encounter those situations in your daily life and you don't know why, because of what you carry within yourself. That is your psychological country. And those actors, those characters that live within your inner world are your different psychological defects, your egos, that are attracting all the circumstances that you live in your daily life. So the psychological country is that region to which those characters take you when you are feeling a psychological defect, when you feel lasciviousness, when you feel feelings of adultery, desiring another person that is not your couple, you are taken to the colony in your psychological country of prostitution, of pornography, of the prototype of beauty, all those memories that you have uh, of what you have captured in your life as the prototype of beauty that fascinates you, that hypnotizes you, and you're taken to that place psychologically when you are feeling that psychological defect. So just as in the physical world, in your interior, you find those dangerous alleyways, and you find also those peaceful places. Um, when you see, well, corners that are full of war, destruction, violence, uh, poverty, and you see, well, that's only from the physical world, and there are really negative places in which you cannot even think about stepping there because it's really dangerous for your physical integrity. And also, there are beautiful places which you want to travel to, get to know, be fascinated by that beauty of the place that you see in those guides of traveling and getting to know the world. As you can see those places in your external world, you find as well those corners in your inner world as well. You have really negative feelings, really negative thoughts that you don't really self observe along your daily life. When you feel hate, when you feel antipathy towards someone, you're desiring that something really bad happens to that person. You want to take revenge, you want to insult, you want to uh, will be really aggressive with that person. You're just coming down to that psychological place, that infernal place in your psychological world that is the corner of the violence. As well as when you are connected with your being, you are saving your energy, you're connecting with that portion of yourself that is justice. When you're begging to your divine mother to eliminate all the negative emotions, the negative thoughts, you are connecting with those beautiful places that are the superior centers of the human machine. So there are really beautiful corners in your inner world which you can connect to when you awaken your conscience, as well as really, really dark places in which you can be taken to your that negative corner, that dark place you can be dragged to when you don't self observe what's happening in your inner world, and you give your energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy, your motor energy, your instinctive energy, your sexual energy to the negative elements you carry inside, which we call your egos. Anger, lust, vanity, pride, uh, just violence, all what's negative inside of you. It's taking away your energy, your power to self observe what am I planning to say, what am I thinking, what am I feeling in this moment. If you lose the power to perceive and be aware of what's happening inside of you, well, you're easily taken to that place, and your egos are going to manipulate you like a puppet and make you give them their energy. And you are going to do things that you're going to regret about it. Why do I do? Why did I do that silly thing? Why did I hurt so much myself? Why did I hurt too much the people that I loved, and that I desired the best for them? Because I didn't control what was happening in my inner world. I didn't have the conscious will to deny those forces of ego, that obscurity. I didn't understand what was happening in that moment, and I didn't practice uh, the, the force of the conscious will that is begging to your divine mother in that moment in which you perceive that something is controlling you, something is taking away the fire of your conscious will. uh, Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that just wants to insult, destruct this person, that wants to calumny me, that wants to get drunk and do silly things. And you just rescue that fire of your will, and you deny the force of your ego to act through you, but it's the force of the conscience that is going to shine and to guide you and lighten up your path. So, within our psychological country, each one of us has certain companions that will take one to where they must according to their psychological characteristics. If we have as company drunkards, well, we are going to be taken to the pub. If we have promiscuous companions, we are going to be taken to the brothels. So, it's the same as in the physical world. If you're associated with negative people, you're going to act as they act, talk the way they talk. If they are accustomed to just insulting, mistreating people, you're going to be the same as them and try to imitate their conduct in order to be accepted and be part of the group. The same occurs in your psychological world. If you have as companion your psychological defects, and you're, well, like friends with that obscure part of you, your egos of lust, greed, sloth, envy, pride, anger, uh, gluttony, we are going to be totally slaves of those companions, and we are going to be, well, fascinated to be feeding them. They are going to take away our power, our faculties and forces, and we are going to be totally slaves of those dark forces of our ego. The only thing that is going to make a difference is that we self observe those companions what are they forcing us to do? What are they trying us to feel, to make us feel, to make us think, or to make us act in a certain way? What does this ego of greed wants me to do? Oh, there is an ego that wants to spend money in something that is unnecessary and wants to feel pleasure of just purchasing and purchasing things that I don't need, but it's going to make me have some pleasure with that. And I'm going to be totally fascinated and become really materialistic, really depending on the physical comfort and wealth in order to feel uh, good. So that is the ego of greed. For instance, if I have the ego of anger, that is going to force me to insult, solve my problems with violence, with being aggressive, being totally tyrant with other people in my relationships, and I just let myself carried by those forces. I'm going to wind up in that psychological country of being really violent or really greedy, really lazy, if I have the ego of sloth that wants to take me to that obscure alley where people are always watching TV or doing things that are not uh, well necessary, things that just keep you there in a passive mood without doing anything useful, just consuming information in the social networks or in TV or in news. Those are the egos of slot, doing things that are unuseful with my time. If I let myself be carried to that psychological um, place, well, I'm going to be totally with my conscience as left. I'm not going to have the power to connect with my being because my being vibrates with the force of justice, wisdom, and love in a really superior place. When you are connected to your infra dimensions, you cannot vibrate with the superior forces of the centers of your human machine that vibrate with justice, wisdom, and love that are located in this part. Your pituitary gland, your pineal gland need to work, need to function in order for you to connect with your being, with that force of the 3% of awakened conscience. So, in order for us to develop our spiritual part, we need to let go, stop being fascinated with these elements that we carry within, with those characters that are really obscure and really dominate our actions, our thoughts, our feelings, our um, uh, instincts, and our sexual energy as well, because we have that energy totally contaminated. We have our seminal energy totally well bottled up in those defects, because with the extraction of the sexual creative energy for having pleasure and having fun, just fornication, we created all those negative elements, all those forces of the ego, and they are going to die. When we purify our sexual creative energy, because those creations were made up with our sexual energy. So we need to eliminate them in a conscious way, being totally aware of what's happening in our inner world. How do we want to be enslaved all the time? When don't we have the conscious will to deny the force of pleasure that we feel, totally inferior pleasure, inferior emotions, inferior thoughts, because we are dominated because of these elements. So the appearances are always the opposite. We think that we are not located in a psychological country, that we are living the instant, and we are self deceiving ourselves all the time. We think that we are perfect, that we are totally honorable, that we are good citizens. I'm a good wife, I'm a good well worker, I'm a good mom, I'm a good friend, and I'm always defending myself, and I cannot see the obscurity within my inner world. If I think I am totally perfect, I am a conscious person, well, I'm not able to see my inner obscurity, my inner darkness, and from that darkness, I'm going to extract the wisdom of evil. So it's indispensable to stop believing that we are good, that we are perfect, that we are conscious of what's happening with our energy because we are not, and we're going to face the reality. The reality is that almost in every instant we are letting ourselves be dragged to that obscure psychological country, but by our defects. So a honorable man can of blameless honesty could be located within his psychological region in a den of thieves. We see people that are supposed to be honorable, to be decent, and they appear to be as we are all the time pretending by the forces of the personality. But the appearances, the personality is not what is real. These are the all the superficial things that we can perceive. The just the cover of the book. But if we open that book, if we just perceive, get the time to question, what am I feeling in this moment? Is this the force of my conscience, or is this a psychological defect? What, where have I been taken to in this moment? What am I thinking? I'm gonna stop and reflect for a moment. What is happening in my mind in this moment? Oh, I'm thinking about something unspeakable. What is happening in my emotions in that moment? I'm feeling totally well dragged by the defects of envy. I feel hate toward this person that has done nothing to me, but I just feel resentment because I haven't accomplished the same things that I see in that she has done in her life. So I am desiring bad things to happen to that person. I have gotten to a really negative psychological place in my inner world. So sometimes the appearances are the opposite. We think that we are living the instant. We think that we are conscious of what's happening in our inner world, and we immediately realize that we are in a really negative part of our psychology. We are feeling the effects of violence, of hate, of lust, because in the instant we didn't deny the force of ego, and we just got carried by those negative feelings, by those negative thoughts. And also, if we didn't observe our emotions and our feelings, we uh, we begin to reflect actions that are totally unconscious. For instance, I feel resentment towards a neighbor because he's always smoking, and I think, oh, he's going to damage my environment. He's contaminating my apartment. I feel hate toward this person because uh, my apartment is smelling like smoke all the time. I hate that, and so I get carried by my negative emotions, and I do negative actions. So I'm going to take revenge. I'm going to do something negative to that person, or I'm going to calumniate that person with another neighbor just to feel that I have gotten even with that person. So if I don't observe my emotions and my feelings, they are going to sooner or later be translated into negative actions. So it's really urgent for us to uh, really stop and, eliminate all those negative emotions, feelings, and to be conscious and aware of my actions. If I am feeding the force of ego, or I am feeding the force of justice, wisdom, and love that is my conscience. So stop believing that you're perfect, that you're honorable, that you're a good wife, a good neighbor, a good citizen, and just remove that mask of perfection in order to see your inner darkness, because that's the way that you're going to really do the psychological work of eliminating your ego. When we stop believing that we are tame sheep, we are going to perceive that wolf that we carry within, and that wolf represents the wisdom of evil. That is going to be the psychological material that we are gonna use in order to awaken our conscience. When I am aware of that ego of envy, of that ego of lust, of pornography, of hate, of violence, I am perceiving what I really am, and I am not putting on a mask to deceive myself thinking that I am perfect. So, what happens when we die? What happens with the psychological country? Uh, we think that when we die, it's over, that nothing happens, that just we just rest in peace, and that all those companions are going to just disappear magically. But it's not like that. After that, each one of us, of our egos, return to the psychological country to keep feeding themselves. The egos, if we don't eliminate them in this existence, when we die, they are not going to be magically eliminated. They are going to keep on feeding themselves in those infernal worlds, the Dantesque circles that we hear, that infernal worlds, that nine Dantesque circles that are described in the Divine Comedy. Well, that's what happens with the egos that we carry within. If we carry the egos of lust, those psychological elements are going to return to the cave of uh, prostitution, of pornography, of promiscuity, and be feeding themselves once and over again in order for the essence to feed itself from pleasure to pain and be cleansed, because we didn't do that procedure in this existence with our conscience, with our free will, and with our strength. They are going to be feeding themselves in the infernal worlds in a mechanical way in order to cleanse up the essence that is boiled up in that ego of lust. For instance, if we have the ego of violence, it's going to have to be eliminated in the Dantesque circle of Mars, that is represented by the ego of rage, of violence, and anger, and those psychological defects that wants to insult, that wants to shout, scream, to punch people. They are going to liberate themselves from pleasure from the moment that they are feeling really having fun, of just having revenge, having pleasure with that, with being aggressive with people, to the moment that they want to stop, but they cannot stop because they are going to have to uh, go through that process of cleanings of cleaning up the essence, in order for the essence to be purified by the force of pleasure and pain in a mechanical way. So these egos are not going to be eliminated if we don't do the effort in this existence to awaken our conscience and eliminate them voluntarily, begging to the force of love that we carry within ourselves. Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that wants to insult, to shout, to punch, to be violent, to be aggressive, to reject this person, to just act in a negative way and disrupt this person, uh, and all those egos that we carry inside ourselves. So we're going to have to make this process in a voluntarily and conscious way in this existence, because if we don't do it in this way, it's going to be in a mechanical way in the infernal worlds, because these psychological elements are going to return to the cave, to where they belong in the infernal worlds, and they're going to keep feeding themselves to cleanse up the essence from pleasure to pain. So the psychological country must be corresponding to the physical world. In order to stop the psychological defects to uh, getting our conscience slept, and preventing us to acquire the force and the power of the self-observation, we need to be living the instant. Mm, if our psychological body is here, um, hearing a lecture or talking about this topic of the psychological country, for instance, I am here talking to you, but if my psychology is in another place, if I am worried about what am I going to do, that I have to do my duties, that I am behind, that I have accumulated work, accumulated duties at home, well, I'm going to be anxious, I'm going to be stressed up, and I am not going to be living the instant. So I'm going to have to make the effort to be here and now in the present, not thinking about what I'm going to have to do next or what I did in the past, but maintaining myself here and now, and eliminating all those forces that want to go back to the past or go to the future, but just feeling my heart and feeling what I have to do in the moment, doing it with my conscience totally awakened. So the practice of the ongoing death helps us to come out of that psychological country and live the instant, because with the ongoing debt, for instance, if I'm here but I'm worrying about what am I going to do next, I am going to beg to my divine mother. Divine mother, eliminate me these egos of feeling anxious, stressed up, worrying about the future, and I'm going to come back to the instant, and that force is not going to come back anymore to distract me. I'm going to be aware of what's happening and living the instant, and every distraction I'm going to eliminate it in order to maintain myself in the present. Uh, to change the magnetic center of gravity is indispensable for us to stop being fascinated with the force of the personality, because the personality is always wanting for us to feed our psychological defects. If I want to work to achieve the practices of the esotericism is knowledge of oneself, is the force of awakening our conscience and knowing our inner world. We are going to have to get to know that inner world in order to free ourselves from the forces of ego, from those bad companions that are going to force us to go to our psychological country. So if we want to liberate ourselves for good from those psychological companions that are our egos, we need to maintain that magnetic center of gravity, to stop being fascinated by the personality that is planning us to just fascinate ourselves and hypnotize with another objective that is not important in our life. That the objective is just to accumulate material things in order for us to feel a status, to feel prestige, to feel that we have accomplished success in life, like a materialistic uh, mm, objective in life. Well, is this truthful, useful, fair for awakening my conscience? Well, no, it's something that is going to fascinate me for a while, but I am going to die and not going to take those objects with me anywhere. So it's not something that is uh, objective. The objective in life is just liberating ourselves and achieving the sacred individuality that is uniting with our being. That is the 3% of justice, wisdom, and love, and vibrating in a superior way with the superior dimensions of nature that is our astral world, our mental world, our Buddhic and Atmic world, creating those existential bodies for our being, and using our sexual energy to create them with our stable couple of the opposite sex. So we are going to awaken that power of the Kundalini, and that is really important, much important than fascinating ourselves with the forces of personality that wants us to keep feeding the objective in life of just feeling prestige, pleasure, and having titles, the academical degrees, uh, working positions that make us feel important in this physical world. But those are objectives that are going to sooner or later pass. And if we awaken our conscience, we can dominate all the dimensions of nature and get rid of ego and totally achieving that sacred individuality. So those things are not important compared to the power, the virtues, faculties, and forces that we can awaken when we awaken the 100% of conscience. We can even get to uh, will vibrate with those forces that are justice, wisdom, and love. We are not going to be enslaved by the power uh, of just those illusions that it's planning us our ego to feed. And while our magnetic center of gravity keeps established around our personality, it can't be transferred to our essence. We need to immediately and urgently transfer our magnetic center of gravity to what is uh, uh, fair, to what is truthful, and what is useful. If we are doing unuseful things with our energy, well, we are losing our time, and sooner or later, our existence is going to end up, and we haven't done uh, what we came to this planet to do. That is, was creating those vehicles to get to know the superior dimensions of nature that are the superior existential bodies. We have a physical body, but we can regenerate that physical body, regenerate the vital body, create the astral body, the mental body, and unite with the causal and Buddhic body in order to be the 100% of conscience totally awakened and integrate with our being, with our spiritual force. So while we keep fascinated with pleasure and pain, just doing what everyone does, working, then in the weekends feeling exhausted, fighting with our couple, fighting with people at work, going to the market, purchasing things to feel better. Well, we are going to be fascinated by those forces of the personality doing what everyone does, but we are not going to have the conscious will in order to do things in a different way and getting to know those uh, superior dimensions of nature that are really, really uh, unspeakable for us to get to know. When you travel to the astral world, to the astral projection. You do the astral projection and you get to know things that are real, not just information, but verifying with your own superior senses what happens beyond this physical world, where you have this wisdom of your being, and you're no longer going to be deceived by the illusory forms of the physical world, but those real knowledges, you're going to have to extract them from your practices, meditation practices, ongoing death practices, sexual transmutation practices that you need to do, because if you don't try them, how you're going to achieve the results? How are you going to have that magnetic center of gravity uh, around your essence? If it's indispensable to have the magnetic center well established around the esoteric work, to try these practices, really doing them, and have your own results. So stop being fascinated by the masks of personality, going to parties, getting drunk, having pleasure, fascinating yourself uh, for those things that everyone does in order to do something with their time, but it's something that is not useful, just well, entertainment. And well, you end up like feeling like a void, because you don't get to connect yourself with your being, with what is truthful, useful, and fair. So, to awaken your conscience, it is urgent to free ourselves from the bad companions that we carry within and come out of our personality, that false personality, in order to for our essence to retrace its steps and come back to the stars. If we want to liberate ourselves for good from our ego, from that inner darkness, we need to start trying the different practices, start to focus around our esoteric work. For instance, if I'm watching TV and I'm wasting my time just consuming in a passive way all the trash information that comes to my mind, and repeating that once and over again, all the realities, all the things, the news, well, I'm going to be with my conscience totally slept. But if with that time I do something useful, like a practice of astral projection, and I got to see the temples of wisdom, of art, that is the sexual transmutation, the temples of wisdom of medicine, the temples of wisdom of all the transcendental knowledge that I have in my inner world, well, I'm going to do something really useful with my time. So, to awaken my conscience, it's really important to eliminate for good those egos that we carry within, that are making us use our time in things that are not useful, but for sleeping our conscience, not truth and not fair, because I'm not doing anything for falling out of that fascination that I have with my ego. So I invite you to fight against those forces of ego all the instance that you have the time of self observing what's happening with your energy, that you're having in your mind negative thoughts, negative feelings in your emotion. Uh, Back to your divine mother. Divine mother, eliminate me this and that, this anxiety, that this stress, this uh, well, feeling annoyed by someone, by some circumstance. Eliminate all of that in order to live the present, be in the instant, and saving your energy, because with that energy you're going to well, build the superior existential bodies for your being with your couple in practices of suprasex, in sexual transmutation. So this is really important, to build up the superior existential bodies which are the vehicles that are going to give you the representation in the different superior dimensions of nature. So this is the conference. I invite you to do the practices in order to transfer the center of gravity in the esoteric work instead of the false personality that is going to always keep you fascinated with your ego. So this was the conference for today, the psychological country. If you have any doubts or any uh, comments that you want to share, I'm willing to hear them. So Perry Simeon says, beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing with us, Perry. I hope this has been a good moment to reflect, to practice, and to keep connecting yourself with your being. Thanks for all of you that have been watching this conference and dedicated some time to have the the elements that you need to practice for awakening your conscience. And have a good afternoon. We are going to keep transmitting more conference in this schedule. So I'm really happy to share this moment with you. Have a good afternoon. Bye. See you in the next lecture.